Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Karasek, and I am a former special education teacher turned a curriculum content developer. Throughout my 4 years in the classroom, I used Kahoot almost daily to help review past information in a fun, engaging, and low-pressure way with my students. Many of my students were either dyslexic or had a language-based learning difference, so Kahoot worked especially well when I read the questions and answer choices aloud, which allowed all of my students to participate fully, even when there was grade level vocabulary from the science curriculum, for example, that was challenging or above their grade level of reading. Today, I'm going to walk through how to use a free version of Kahoot, from exploring some different parts of the platform to creating your own Kahoot, and then how to adjust settings and run a Kahoot in a way that best supports your students in your classroom. By the end of this training, you should feel confident in creating and using Kahoot as a flexible instructional tool and not just as a game. So, what is Kahoot and when do you use it? So, Kahoot is an interactive quiz based platform, a little bit like quizzes or Quizlet, but more engaging for the students. And it really allows teachers to assess understanding, review content, and increase engagement in real time. While it often feels like a game to students, it's actually a powerful formative assessment tool. Some great times to use Kahoot might include reviewing before a quiz or a test, activating prior knowledge at the start of a session or a start of a lesson, checking for understanding mid-lesson. It's also a low-stakes assessment after teaching a concept. Kahoot is actually especially helpful for students who benefit from repetition, visual supports, and predictable routines. So now we're going to log into Kahoot. You can log in many different ways, but I'm going to log in using Google, and this is often the easiest, especially if your institution has Google as their main email. Let's give it a second to log in. And when you log in, you'll land on a home page. On the home page, there are a few things you will find. You will land firstly on home. There is a discover page that can help you find Kahoots that have already been made. You then have your library full of Kahoots that you have made, and then the reports section, which has the results of any Kahoots you have used in your classroom. You can also notice this create button up here, and this we will click in just a second when we create our own Kahoot. I highly recommend exploring the Discover tab. There are thousands of teacher-created Kahoots available for free. Even if you don't use one as is, they can be great inspiration. So the main thing I am going to walk through today is creating your own Kahoot. So you can create a Kahoot by clicking this create button. You can create a course, a story, or a Kahoot, and today we're going to focus on a Kahoot. There are some new options today. You can import it from slides or a PDF, although you will notice this star, and this means it requires a paid version. I usually start with the blank canvas because I have an idea of the sorts of questions I'd like to ask my students. You can click create from that blank canvas. I would start by putting in a title. And you can put something in there like ecosystems. And you can make it public. This is so other teachers can find it. And then if you have folders you want to save it in, like science period 1, you can put it in a specific folder and then click done. Then you will have a blank question. There are two types of questions in the free version of Kahoot. You can either do a quiz, which is for multiple choice answers, or a true false. I'll start with a quiz. And then you can come up with your first question. What type of ecosystem is located in the far north? Tundra, you can mark that as the correct answer. Desert, rainforest, or coral reef. At this point, there are a few things you can change about this. How long do the students get to answer the question? I generally put 1 minute. Again, my students have language-based learning disabilities or dyslexia, so it either takes them a little bit longer to read it or I will be reading it out loud. And sometimes when that is the case, you have to repeat the question. You can also click this apply to all questions button, and that will apply it to all of the questions. The points that get awarded, sometimes if I guess it's a harder question, you could double the points or have it be no points, but I usually keep it at standard. And then for the free version, you have to do a single select or have one correct answer. But if you do pay for the upgrade, there can be a multi-select option. You can also click this plus button if you want to put a picture. Maybe you can put a picture of the tundra. I think they have one here for you. And it can be a help for your students. Then you can go through and add questions. Again, the free version is just true or false or quiz. We can click true or false this time. And I usually start by saying true or false. There are more fresh water ecosystems than saltwater. False. You can also duplicate a question. I press duplicate. Oh, let me change this to 1 minute. Apply to all. You can see the timing here. You can duplicate the question, and then maybe you just want to change this to there are more saltwater ecosystems than freshwater. That would be true, and they'll change the answer for you. So in general, that is how you might form a Kahoot, and then you can press save. You can either launch now, or I usually just click done, and it will show up in your library. You can see I have a lot of Kahoots from my time in the classroom. I was both a science and social studies teacher, so I have some science here. I have an old ecosystem Kahoot, and I also have this. I will show you an example of when I might use a lot of pictures. So we were a social studies class and we were trying to learn the countries. This is the time when duplicating might be easier for you. The question was always, what country is this? I would put a picture of the country I wanted them to identify and 4 choices. Now that we've gone through how to create a Kahoot, here's how to host it. So you click host. In my case, I just had the one class, so you can label it with your different classes, either period 1, period 2, or if they have specific names. We're gonna go in classic mode. So I'm gonna press start. And then it will generate a QR code depending on what sort of supplies your classroom has. In my classroom, they had iPads, so the students would take their iPads um, and take the camera and click on the QR code. I'm going to do that today. And I'll put my name, Allie. Okay, go, and you will see that I pop up there as a player in the Kahoot. My students loved picking different characters. You can see all of the different characters, and they get a second to choose. And then there's also an accessory. It's been very cold outside, so I'm going to put a beanie on. All of the students would log in. There we go. And as soon as all of the students log in, you can press start. Before we start today, I did want to show you a few settings that are available. So I did have this setting on where students can choose their own characters. There's also another setting that can show the questions on the devices. My students tended not to like this setting. It was too many words for them. Again, with dyslexic students, not the best setting, so we kept that one off. I also wanted to point out the randomize the order of questions with my students. They were very good at memorizing the order that the questions came in and what answer choices. Oops, I think I lost some connection there. Hopefully I pop back in. There we go. So I would highly recommend randomizing the order of the questions and randomizing the order of the answers so students don't memorize, oh, it's the red answer for this question, and that's the second one. They're very good at that. Okay. There is a nickname generator. You can click this if you think students are going to type in inappropriate names, but in general, that was not a issue in my classroom. So now that you have the settings the way you want to, you can go ahead and start. Let me make sure my icon doesn't disappear. So I'm going to press start. And it goes full screen. And this is my country maps Kahoot. It will count down. And for this, I would read, what country is this? The country or the picture in this case would pop up. I just see colors and no words on my screen. I'll click which one I think it is. And however many people got the question right or wrong, it will show you where all of the answer choices fell. If all of the students get the question wrong, this might be a good time to pause and go over the information. In this case, I might walk over to the map and show them where New Zealand is on the big map on the wall. Click next. It will award the points and keep going. So again, I might read aloud, what country is this? Read the answer choices: Jamaica, United States, Puerto Rico, Canada. I'll look at it, choose my answer, and there we go. So I am going to escape this. At the end of the Kahoot, there is a podium for first, second, and third place, which the students were always very interested in. There I am, the one and only. We'll skip the claim rewards. It's moving a little slow right now. But once the Kahoot is over and you want to see the results, which questions were answered the most incorrectly, which questions did most of the students get correct, which students scored the highest, or any sort of data, you can look at the session summary and then view full report. If you view the report, it will open in a separate tab. It will list all of the participants and all of the questions depending on what sort of data you want to look at. If you want to look at participant scores, you can click that. If you want to look at the questions and what percentage of people got them right or wrong, you can click that. I will go over to a past report. So this was a while ago, but this was country maps back in May of last year. And there were 5 participants for this Kahoot with 41 questions. You can see it took 33 minutes. Down here, it looks like there were no difficult questions. If I look at the participants, you can see all of the different participant names. In this case, I didn't really care what their names were since it was a review and I wasn't using this data for personal use. But you can click on the student and you can see which questions they got right or wrong. You can also see what the ranking was, and you can click up here and look at the questions. And oh, it looks like this question, only 40% of the people got it right. Let's see which one it is. Ooh, it's a pretty tricky one. Costa Rica. So once you've done all of that, you can go back to your library, play a different Kahoot, or of course, always create a new one. And now, just to wrap up, a few final tips and best practices while using Kahoot. First, I would use Kahoot pretty frequently so that students can get comfortable with the format and how to log in. By the end of the year, my students had it down. I would prioritize clarity over speed. So as you can see, I set a lot of my questions to 1 minute. And then if a lot of students got it wrong, I would pause and I would explain or review whatever the concept was that they obviously are having difficulty with. I also liked reading the questions out loud. This made sure that there were no misunderstandings for the students. And again, I would use it as a discussion tool and not just as a competition. Kahoot works best when it's inclusive, predictable, and intentionally used. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you feel confident using Kahoot to support student learning in a meaningful way.